What becomes universal is when we understand we're all basic and simple. And that sometimes I feel like in movies, Black men or Black people have to be extraordinary and overcome extraordinary circumstances for them to be even comparable to white basicness. And that bothers me. And so Black people's basicness is just as beautiful as everybody else's for all people of color. And so to me, it was important to show a Black father-son story where they just had issues as two men and they need to understand each other better.
Sorry, I had to do something.
Something more important than your job?
Well, I went to a mixer about becoming a sommelier.
Is that like a pirate?
No, that's a sommelier.
So for me, I wanted to talk about Black fathers and sons that we just have issues that have nothing to do with race, that just has to do with us being as people. And I felt like when you get to see people be people, you just start to understand their humanity more. Any father, no matter what ethnicity you are, can relate to what it's like to be a father. And I think that's when you start to understand people better. Before I wrote and directed the movie Uncorked, I didn't know anything about wine. My extent of wine knowledge was drinking White Zinfandel at Frankie Beverly concerts. Because wine is kind of an intimidating world. You know, you look at a label, you don't really know what you're, what you're reading or what you're looking for. And so I took this wine 101 class at a wine bar. And the guy who was teaching it just made it really easy to understand. He taught me how to read a wine label. He broke down what the regions were, like champagne is not the drink, it's the area where it's from. And just like real basic things. And so that whole trip, I was just like, I really want to learn more about this. You see a lot of people when they're being, swirling it around and sniffing it and putting their nose all the way up in it and tasting it. And it looks kind of crazy. And I think a lot of it sometimes can feel like extra, like really extra. But you're actually doing a lot of different things that's why you're doing it. So again, I'm no wine som, but from doing the movie and talking to Psalms, one of the things that you do is when you swirl it around, it's not to just be looking bougie. You're trying to get more air and oxygen into the wine to actually open up the flavors. So when you're swirling it, you're letting air get in, and that's gonna naturally bring more of the flavor of the wine out. When you're sniffing it, you wanna get your nose all the way in there because what you're trying to do is pick up a lot of the flavors and the textures of the wine. And to the smell, what you wanna do obviously is you wanna let it sort of resonate in your mouth a little bit, kind of get the textures. How does it feel? How does it taste? Is it complex? Is it not? And all of that again goes into the experience of tasting the wine. So it is actually, there's a process for why you're doing all of those things. But obviously tasting is like the best part of it. One scene in the movie that I think people have really connected to, and obviously as being Black, that I think people really respond to is the scene in the movie where Elijah is comparing wine to hip hop artists.
Chardonnay, it's like the granddaddy of wine. It's versatile, smooth, and kind of go with anything. It's like the Jay-Z of wine.
Okay.
And the reason why I wrote that scene was kind of twofold. One, I wanted a scene in the movie early to explain to the audience that in the same way that I felt when I took that wine class where the guy made it super easy for me to understand, I wanted a scene for the audience that they could understand wine very quickly and that they didn't need to know anything about wine to enjoy this movie. I wanted it to relate specifically to Black people. And as Elijah, as a Black man, is trying to talk to this other Black girl, like hip hop felt like an interesting and again, a fresh way to do that. And obviously a lot of athletes and hip hop artists have a wine label or really enjoy wine. So that sort of felt like fun and different and kind of interesting. And obviously he's trying to flirt with her too. So that doesn't hurt either. But so I picked obviously, but also at the time when I was writing it, there were different hip hop artists who were popular. So for me, it was also figuring out who will still be relevant in 2015, 18, and 20. And so some of the artists that I picked were obviously, I said Jay-Z, I picked Kanye West, and I picked Drake. And obviously they were popping in, you still know who they are today. And you know enough about them to understand like why they pair with those wines. And so to me, Chardonnay is kind of like the daddy of like the granddaddy of wines in a lot of ways. One was the trip that I actually discovered wine on. And that moment was actually with my wife. It was our first time in Europe. It was also around our anniversary. We were having dinner at like 11:30 at night, drinking wine at this beautiful cafe right by the River Seine at night. And it was just my wife and I. And we just talked for like 2 hours till like 1 something in the morning, drinking wine, and then just like walked back to the hotel. And it was just such a like, I don't even know. It was just talking about things we didn't get to talk about, getting to know each other, actually things we didn't really know about each other, even though we had been married for some time. It was just a beautiful moment over drinking wine. And it was so new to me that it was all so new and all so beautiful. And to just sit there with my wife and to know that when we got married, we had no money. And so to even be in Paris at this point, having this experience was just amazing.